On 5 News, one of the world's most famous couples split. Angelina Jolie's lawyer confirms she's filed for divorce from Brad Pitt after 12 years and 6 children together. She's an actress and director, a UN ambassador and a role model for millions. He's one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. So, what's behind the split? Also this evening, a financial scam every 15 seconds. How 2 million people a year are ripped off by bogus texts and emails. The UN suspends all aid convoys to Syria after a devastating air attack kills around 20 people. A 5 News investigation into the deaths of dozens of mentally ill people finds mistakes are being repeated again and again. Prince William opens up about fatherhood and the pressure of being an air ambulance pilot. And now the party can really start as the Golden Paralympics team come home.
My intention was to come back with at least 2 medals, so to have doubled that is amazing.
Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. They are one of the most famous couples in the world, but in the past hour or so, Angelina Jolie's lawyer has confirmed she's filing for divorce from Brad Pitt. The actress says she took the decision for the health of the family. The couple have 6 children and have been together for 12 years. Minnie Stevenson has the story.
They were Hollywood's most famous power couple. Such a unit, they became known as Brangelina. But this afternoon, Angelina's legal team confirmed that she's filing for divorce from Brad. In a statement, Jolie's lawyer said this decision was made for the health of the family. She will not be commenting and asked that the family be given its privacy at this time.
She was mesmerizing. She was unpredictable. Now, there's no mystery.
They met on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2004, with Brad saying he fell in love with Angelina while making the movie. At the time, he was still married to Jennifer Aniston. And then came family life. The couple have 6 children together. This was Angelina talking about Brad in 2014.
He's been extraordinary, just extraordinary. He's such a wonderful man and a wonderful father, and I'm very, very lucky.
It's now being reported that Angelina is seeking custody of their children. Brad and Angelina may have been together for 12 years, but they only decided to get married 2 years ago. Speaking to 5 News from Hollywood, one reporter said the news has come as a shock to showbiz insiders.
Well, obviously this has come as a bit of a surprise because for many years there have been rumours surrounding the relationship of Brad and Angelina. You know, there have been rumours that surround many couples in Hollywood, but they never actually split up. The fact that they have split up, this has come as quite a surprise.
Few details about their imminent divorce have been confirmed, but their split marks the end of one of the most famous marriages in the world. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Now, have you ever received a bogus text message or email trying to get you to give out your financial details? The answer is almost certainly yes, because every year more than 2 million of us get scammed. And the problem is getting worse too, as the fraudsters and the technology they use gets increasingly smart, as Charlotte Grant reports.
You might be thinking, it'll never happen to me. But financial scamming is now so common, someone becomes a victim every 15 seconds. So whether it's on a phone, online or in person, today came a warning from the banks. The problem is only getting worse. And the fraudsters are only getting more sophisticated. Jake Herger became a victim after receiving a text message from a number he didn't recognise. Just by replying to it, he lost £200. The hackers had posed as Jake to request a new SIM card. They then put it in another phone and transferred his money.
I was slightly confused, first of all, because I don't really know someone called Sarah. However, I did want to respond because I didn't obviously want anyone to be in any trouble. It makes me annoyed because I think that they're playing on someone's generosity and kindness and just exploiting that.
The scam at the moment is that it's a general in the US Army who needs money because he's been injured in a car crash.
At this bank in Watford, they're having what they call Scam Day, where staff receive training and tips on the latest tricks being used to dupe customers.
Always cover your PIN number.
Today, for the first time, all the major banks have come together to launch a campaign, encouraging us to think twice before handing over financial details. Called Take 5, they're asking customers to take the time to protect themselves from scammers.
So what's your one piece of advice?
So the biggest thing that scammers and fraudsters will want to do is rush you, put you under pressure to give that. So always say that you'll phone someone back. If they're asking you for details over the phone and you're not sure. But again, when you pick up your phone, make sure there's a dialing tone because they may have kept the line open the other end. Do some research on the company, Google the company, do whatever you need to do if you really don't think it's right.
So the message is to take your time and take 5, or lose more money than that. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
8 further arrests have been made over the Bastille Day lorry attack in Nice that left 86 people dead. Lawyers said the suspects, who are French and Tunisian, had links with the attacker, Mohamed Brulel, who drove a truck through a crowd watching a fireworks display in July. And smoking rates in England have fallen to the lowest ever. Last year, around 17% of adults described themselves as smokers. That's according to Public Health England. The decrease may be partly down to the availability of e-cigarettes. The convoy was carrying aid to the desperate people of Aleppo in Syria, medicines to treat burns, blankets to provide some comfort to those living with the horror of continuing violence. But in a devastating air attack, many of the lorries were destroyed. The UN chief Ban Ki-moon has suspended all further aid convoys, saying the bar of depravity in Syria had sunk even lower. Russia and Syria say their forces were not involved, but as our political editor Andy Bell reports, it seems as though the tiny glimmer of hope for the families suffering in Aleppo may have just gone out.
These pictures show the end of the convoy. At least 20 dead and urgently needed supplies destroyed.
More than 20 vehicles, 20 trucks full of food and flour and medicine and pampers and blankets. Today is 19th September of 2016. At the evening, exactly the evening, 7:30 o'clock, the regime helicopter targeted this place with 4 barrels.
The rescue worker blames the Syrian regime for dropping barrel bombs, and he says there was a second attack after emergency crews had got to the site. The convoy was carrying aid supplied by different agencies, including the UN. They, along with others like the Red Cross, have now suspended relief convoys because after last night they could be a target.
The convoy is clearly identified as a humanitarian convoy, so you can't miss it, all right? And this took months and months and weeks of planning. So the idea that such an attack on a convoy like this could actually take place is absolutely outrageous. And if it's later deemed that this humanitarian convoy was actually targeted, it could well prove a war crime.
The convoy was on its way to opposition-held areas in the city of Aleppo. A ceasefire had enabled some supplies to get through there, but the Syrian government ended that ceasefire just hours before last night's attack. The Russians, who back the Syrian government, have said they know nothing about the attack on the convoy, and in New York, meetings to revive the ceasefire seem hopeless. In his last speech to the United Nations General Assembly, President Obama has made a plea for a diplomatic breakthrough.
A place like Syria, where there's no ultimate military victory to be won, we're going to have to pursue the hard work of diplomacy that aims to stop the violence and deliver aid to those in need and support those who pursue a political settlement and can see those who are not like themselves as worthy of dignity and respect.
Peace in Syria has eluded this president, and as he gets ready to step down, there's no evidence that it is getting any closer. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme. Missing out in their hour of need, how parents of sick or premature babies don't always get the proper support. And they're really first class, the golden team of Paralympics GB fly home. All that and more after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Patients who die under the care of mental health services in England are being failed, and the mistakes that led to their deaths are being repeated over and over again. A 5 News investigation has analysed 100 coroners' reports over 4 years and found problems as simple as poor record keeping and bad communication contributing to the deaths. Our health correspondent Catherine Jones reports.
100 documents, each one describing a life cut short. 100 reports specially written by a coroner to prevent more deaths in the future, to try to make sure mistakes are identified and lessons are learned.
We've spent 2 months sifting through all these documents and found the same shockingly basic errors happening again and again. And we've also discovered that no official national body is analysing these documents as we have.
We've shared our findings with 2 campaigners for change and 2 bereaved mothers. Sarah, whose son Connor drowned in a bath at a unit for people with learning disabilities, and Rosemary, whose son Darren died in a secure mental health ward.
They gave him a sedative and took him to his room, laid him on his bed and closed the door. Really just closed the door on him and forgot about him. Out of sight, out of mind, I suppose.
55 reports involve inpatients, and when we collated coroners' concerns, a third of deaths involved poor observation of a patient on a ward. The same proportion found a failure to correctly assess the risk of harm, and for almost half of deaths, poor record keeping contributed. In one example, a nurse failed to read notes about a patient's high risk of self-harm and sent them home, where they took their own life.
These deaths they're unremarkable to the staff, not necessarily the frontline staff who are actually interacting with them and caring for them, but they're unremarkable to the higher levels. There's almost an expectation that people will die unexpectedly, and they will die early. And there's no
expectation that some will take their own lives as well,
yeah,
which is shocking.
That's right, yeah.
I think that's absolutely right. Sort of an awful tolerance level has grown up.
45 reports are about deaths in the community, and just over a quarter of these highlight a failure to involve the person's family. For a third, the referral system to access support broke down, and half the reports criticise communication between different agencies. For example, over a single day, one patient was in contact with police, paramedics, a GP and a crisis team, but they failed to share information, and within hours the man had taken his own life.
These are some of the most vulnerable people in the health service, and we have an absolute responsibility to at least keep them safe. And then if we don't, we have an absolute responsibility to learn from that to make sure that we can keep people in the future safe.
But as 5 News has discovered, no national body uses these reports to find the common themes and then draw up national guidance.
Makes a mockery of the whole process, to be honest, of all this paper.
Government needs to lead this, the spotlight on what is happening in some of these institutions. We shouldn't denigrate everyone because there's some very good care out there, but in too many places awful things are happening and lessons aren't being learned.
There was a nurse that come up to me and said, "I'm very sorry about your son, but if I had more training and I knew what I know now, things would have been better for your son." And I said, "Well, thank you, but it's a bit late now."
Your heart really goes out to Rosemary. And these are the coroner's report you've got here in front of you, Catherine. There's information here which could have saved lives. Why wasn't it shared better?
Well, it is shared with the individual trust who was caring for someone who dies, and they have to respond to that. And also the Care Quality Commission, the hospital inspectors do get a copy, but they are arguably the ones who could draw together things to create a national picture as well as looking at individual problems, and they currently don't. They say the basic problems we've identified, like watching somebody closely, like reading their medical records, they are consistent with the areas of risk that we review during our inspections, and they do look for specific guidance on this. The interesting thing is the government has just asked the CQC to do a huge review of the way deaths are investigated right across the NHS. So it's a big focus right now on learning lessons better when someone dies, but you could argue all along there's been this well-researched set of really important information just sitting on a shelf.
Catherine, thank you. 1 in every 8 babies born in the UK needs special care in hospital, and for their parents it's vital to be with them throughout. But often that isn't happening because too many neonatal units don't offer the support that's needed. A report has found many lack basic facilities like overnight accommodation or even a kitchen to cook food. Peter Lane has met one mum whose daughter needed care after being born prematurely at 26 weeks.
Happy and healthy now, but Tamaya has been through a lot.
You can see yourself in there, can't you?
Her parents have nothing but praise for the medical staff who saved her after she was born early at just 26 weeks. But they feel let down by the system because during the 3 months that she was in hospital, they couldn't stay with her.
It was just horrifying. It was really hard, really hard to come away, and there's a feeling of guilt for walking away. You're effectively walking away from your child at the one time when they need you most. You're on tenterhooks because every other phone call that you get is at the hospital. Are they going to tell me that something's gone horribly wrong? Am I going to have to race to the hospital? Is it going to be too late?
Well, this is how small Tamaya was, one of 84,000 babies to go into neonatal care in England each year. Her parents' hour-long trip to the hospital each day used to feel like a lifetime. And a report from the charity Bliss reveals that a third of hospitals don't have dedicated accommodation for the families of critically ill babies.
We need to see change happening on the ground at NHS trusts across the country, but ultimately it's Government, Department of Health's responsibility to make sure that this is recognised as an important part of what the NHS offers to patients and ensures that that's delivered across the country.
NHS England have told us parents are central to the care of their child. We will continue to work closely with Bliss and others to improve neonatal services, ensuring all premature and sick babies receive the best possible care.
Every journey away from the hospital back home, all you're thinking is, am I going the right way? Should I be going back to hospital or should I be going back home? And you're constantly playing with your demons thinking, well, what am I doing and am I doing the right thing?
But to look at her now, through everything you've been through?
Through everything been now, it's such a blessing.
Happier times now, but for this family, the extra turmoil, extra stress of separation from a critically ill child is a memory that doesn't fade. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Prince William has spoken about how he copes with sad and dark moments he faces as a pilot with the East Anglian Air Ambulance Service. The Duke of Cambridge has allowed cameras rare access in an effort to draw attention to their life-saving work.
There's some very sad, dark moments, and we talk about it a lot, and that's the best way of dealing with some of the situations is you talk, and you try not to take it away from you, but sometimes, particularly for us who don't necessarily, day in, day out see all this stuff, it can be quite difficult.
Now, it was a welcome home filled with cheers and tears. After a record-breaking games, the athletes from Paralympics GB came into Heathrow today and rushed into the emotional embrace of family and friends. Simon Vigar was there.
Arriving in the red, white and blue terminal, another plane load of medals from Brazil. Among them, Kadina Cox, a winner in cycling and running.
What was your target before you left for Rio? Because this is like showing off. What was your target?
My intention was to come back with at least 2 medals, so to have doubled that is amazing.
It was another fun flight. Rower Pam Relf made it up front.
Got loads of sleep, loads of nice food, and the ladies at British Airways were just absolutely amazing. It was really icing on the cake. Yeah.
You get used to it now. You have always.
Well, I've got high expectations now.
Dressage competitor Lee Pearson was already a Paralympics legend before Rio, and he exceeded his targets this time.
Years and years and years of hard work, and it all came to success on that day. So yeah, I'm phenomenally pleased and proud and tired.
The grand dam of the team, Dame Sarah Story, believes their new Rio record can be beaten.
I think everyone's really got the buzz, and there's a very young team on that plane that came home last night, and they're all thinking, actually, Tokyo, I can learn from what happened in Rio. For those who have only done a second games in Rio, they're obviously thinking, well, yeah, third game's more than happy to go for trying to do that. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Star of table tennis Rob Davis was disabled while playing rugby. His message is simple.
Get back into fitness, get back into sport is the best thing you can do.
for sure. It's lifted my spirits, it's gave me something to aim for. Get involved, yeah, go and see a disability sport officer. Back in Wales, it's Disability Sport Wales. They got me into it at the start, and it's just come from there. And you could be competing in Tokyo 2020 if you go and do it.
His partner in ping pong, Will Bailey, won gold, climbed onto the table and earned a yellow card from the judge. She couldn't take his medal away, though. Did she smile at all or not?
Do you know what, afterwards she did. After the match she gave me a little smile and she said that was funny, but at the time I don't think she saw the funny side, but yeah, it's a great feeling.
It's fair to say the mood is buoyant.
I think with Paralympic sport movement, we're going to beat it, and in Tokyo is to watch us. We're going to supercharge it even further.
And what does it mean to have Lauren back?
It was that sort of day in the red, white and blue terminal, their journey ending where it all began, with the people who love them the most. Simon Viger, 5 News, Heathrow.
And more on our Paralympic heroes at 6:30. Matt's here to tell us what's coming up on
That's right, Sean. More smiles as well, no doubt, because I'm going to be joined by 2 of them. Jodie Cundy, who won 2 golds in Rio, and Steph Reid, who picked up Britain's first track and field medal in the long jump. Looking forward to talking to them. We'll also have more on Brad and Angelina's divorce with the latest from Los Angeles at 6:30.
Look forward to that. Thank you. That is it for now. Sean Welby has the weather next. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.